We're joined now by Romania's Foreign Minister, Oana Țoiu, live from Bucharest. Great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
So, Minister, this is not the first time suspected Russian drones have crossed into Romanian airspace, but this one hit in an apartment building, injuring a woman and a child. Does this indicate Russia's war is now directly threatening NATO and European territory?
It is the most severe incident we have seen since the start of the war. Romania has the longest border with the war, 650 kilometers, and of course we do have the Danube and the Black Sea close to it. It is important to say, though, that the mother and child are well, they have received medical care, but of course the level of worry, the level of concern is very high, not just in Galați, the city that was hit, but also across the country, and I would dare to say across Allied territory, because this has raised concerns. I have seen the statements come from Vladimir Putin, and we do have a clear message to him. It is his drone, and we know that he knows it. We have seen Russia try, whenever these hybrid interferences happened on the eastern flank, to also push their own side of the story, narratives that would deflect from their own responsibility. But especially in Eastern Europe, we do have a history that teaches us that Russia is not to be trusted.
Yeah, of course, Russia denying responsibility, NATO officials and yourself pointing to the evidence that this was from a Russian system. Does this risk, this pattern of plausible deniability, suggest an escalation? And at what point do future incursions become intolerable? Well,
I would say they're already unacceptable from the first moment they happened. But they're also a moment that shows us that the war at our border generates, of course, risks and insecurities. And that is why it is very important that we do continue the international collaboration and solidarity, not just, of course, to protect every inch of the NATO territory, but also to support the path towards peace at the border and to support the resilience of Ukrainians and the increased pressure on Russia so that it authentically reach the dialogue conversation there.
Minister, NATO says it will defend every inch of alliance territory. What specifically is Romania asking from the alliance?
Mm-hmm. We have a very clear list of capabilities that are needed to increase the air defense on the eastern flank. I've had this conversation, and of course the Ministry of Defense has had it as well with SACEUR, the US European commander of NATO. I've spoken today with Secretary General Mark Rutte, as well as, of course, the President and the Minister of Defense have had these conversations, and we are going to continue to increase our capabilities. On Romania's side, of course, we've also made it a priority in our procurement. We've allocated 2 billion euros for procurement on air defense. And we are also part of international air defense missions, not just on our airspace, but across the eastern flank.
Minister, you've warned repeatedly about instability in the Black Sea. Do you believe that Russia is deliberately testing NATO's eastern flank?
We do see the Black Sea as being a strategic point. It is the connection of Europe to South Caucasus, to the Middle East. That is why we also see it is very important for Russia to try to keep it in its sphere of influence. But of course, that is not the case. We are strong in protecting it. We do have a NATO component in demining. We do have a great partnership with Turkey, Bulgaria, in protecting the Black Sea. And of course, the Black Sea is also part of the conversations I'm having with members of Congress. It was part of the conversation I had with Secretary of State Marco Rubio last year as well.
Minister, Russian officials are warning Europe to, quote, get ready, essentially, for more drone incidents. Is this deterrence messaging, or is this a signal of escalation?
It is part of their reckless behavior as they have increased the attacks on civilian infrastructure, ports close to our border, close to NATO border. They are unable to have full control of their own drones and their own capabilities, and that reckless behavior needs to stop.
And so could future drone strikes trigger potentially an Article 4 under NATO?
We do believe now that we have a continuous consultation among us in terms of what are the threats that we see and what are the capabilities that are needed. We have actually asked for some time ago that we do plan in June, and we are going to have a conversation in the Council on maritime security, where we're going to add, of course, the security of the Danube and our capability plan.
Certainly, there are some politicians and some analysts, both here in the US and Europe, that argue that deeper NATO support for Ukraine is essentially the risk. It risks escalating this conflict further. How do you respond to that concern?
We do see, especially now, that this type of modern attack has also generated lessons from this war. And we do see Ukraine as well becoming a security partner, not just in the region, but also if we are to look at the Middle East, we also see the countries there having intense conversations with experts from Ukraine in order to be able to have a more adapted air defense system. So we do see Ukraine as our neighbor, and we do see a partnership with them in the future in terms of common solutions. For example, we're also going to produce together air defense mechanisms for drones.
And given, Minister, that there's already been more than 24 incidences in Romania where suspected Russian drones have come into your airspace, just what are you prepared to do right now?
We do have a clear decision for our pilots to shoot down the drones. We have seen F-16s, we've scrambled them as we see the drones on the radars, but that created, of course, also a security risks in terms of shooting down the drones themselves over overpopulated areas. That is why it is very important that we do procure the proper air defense system adapted to the drone incursions, and that we do have an increased presence in terms of airplanes, in terms of helicopters, in terms of radars and anti-drone systems on the eastern flank.
Oana Țoiu, Romania's Foreign Minister, we appreciate your time today. Thanks very much.
Thank you.